It is recording whenever you're ready.
Okay. Should I do the intro?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Steve Acho from steveacho.com, and you are listening to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with Jeff Smith, reminding you to achieve what matters most.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to vroom vroom veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Risa August, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Oh, great. I'm so happy to be here, Jeff.
We're already having fun. I think I got you primed with laughing, so that's good. So you are Risa August. I think I'm saying your name right. And you're at risaaugust.com.
Yep.
Right?
Nope. You're saying it wrong, but that's okay.
Risa.
It's risaaugust.com.
See, I told you I was going to screw it up. Risa, not Risa. There's no good way to write Ris. Okay, risaaugust.com. Okay, sorry. Thank you for pointing it out. And I'm sorry. I'll try not to
politely.
do it again. Yes, yeah. So politely. You're screwing it up, but thanks. Risa. Okay, risaaugust.com. So let's talk a little bit about what you're most excited about in your business and the book, whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, gosh, where do I begin? So I am a Gestalt Practitioner. I became certified in 2019, and it's a holistic approach to coaching, and it's very non-traditional and experiential. And then I became an author as well, and that has kind of expanded my coaching practice.
Okay.
And then I went on to also become an inspirational speaker, which has further expanded my coaching practice.
Sure.
And what I'm really excited about now, which is really showing up, is, my book has won 5 awards. It's selling worldwide. And I think what's most exciting for me is when I receive emails from people all over the world telling me, and I can feel emotion rising up in my chest, but telling me how much I've inspired them or given them hope, or how much they can relate to my story and how much it meant to them that I told my story. And I never imagined that this awkward person floundering through my life, just like many of us do, I never imagined that I would be inspiring other people.
Wow.
And especially by telling my goofy, humorous story about riding my bike and naming my tumor Bubba. So
That's great.
Yeah, so that's
Amazing.
what's feeling really good and exciting right now.
Yeah, so it's awesome that you get that, that feedback, when you put out, because we all put out, like I'm doing this podcast, right? And it's like a creative effort, right? I don't need to do it. I'm not getting paid. I'm doing it out of, I like it. It's fun for me, but I always hope that somebody hears Risa. Risa, right? And then they hear me too, right? And then, oh, look, I was there when that happened.
Yes, exactly. And I want to speak to what you're saying about, because a lot of people are like, wow, your book's doing so amazing. You've won all these awards, and are you rich yet? And it's funny. It's
not.
like, it's not at all like that. And,
right.
That's one of the first things your publisher asks you is like, okay, if you're doing this to be rich, you might, you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Right,
And,
right.
And that was,
it's good that they say that. That's good that they say that.
Exactly. So
along, I think everybody has this sort of like assumption that when they see somebody do one thing, it's like, oh, well, they don't do anything. They've got everything figured out.
Exactly. Right.
They've solved life because they're successful. Look, successful people get bored and lonely and keep working, right? Look at like a guy like Adam Sandler. He doesn't need to make money ever again. He's really, really rich. Right. And he still keeps working. Why?
Yep.
Why? Because he'd be bored if he didn't. But he also wants to do other things. I think he wants to inspire people and
exactly. And that's really what it became for me. And so, I mean, could I say I'm successful? Yeah. If I'm out there inspiring people and changing lives and bringing attention to my story, yes. But financially, I'm working my butt off, and
Sure.
and so and that doesn't necessarily define success for me. So.
Nothing wrong with that. If you ever get time, I don't know. Have you ever heard of this thing called the Financial Independence Retire Early movement?
No, but sign me up.
You should sign up. Yeah. So there's a website and a podcast called Choose Fi. I think everybody should do this. And it's not like a get rich scheme. You don't have to pay anybody for their thing. You can if you want to, but you don't have to, right? It's all literally free education about how to figure out money, pay down debt, right? And it's all there. It's all free. I mean, so much education, so free that I think we could spend a whole hour talking about how I think anybody struggling with money, you don't have to. You can figure that out. It's doable for everybody. Doesn't matter how much you're making. It's not so much how much you make. It's how much you keep.
Yes.
Yeah. If you keep money, guess what? Then you have money.
Right.
It's pretty easy.
Right. Yeah. Oh, good to know. I need to write that down.
Yeah. Choosefi.com is a good one. Mr. Money Mustache is another guy. He's like a pioneer. His real name's Pete. He lives in like Colorado. It's all about just like getting control of your spending and rewriting your relationship with money. When I found them, I was like, wow, geez, I'm doing most of this stuff. Yeah. I can pretty much screw around pretty soon,
Right. Oh, okay.
Right. So check that out. Anyway,
I mean, it looks like you're enjoying the beach and palm trees and stuff. So, I mean, you must already be semi-retired.
I am retired all the way. I mean, the podcast is the job. So
nice.
I'm in Vegas, so I wish I was on the beach. That's a virtual beach. Right. In my mind, I'm on the beach.
Yeah. Well, you have palm trees though, yes?
There are palm trees in Vegas.
Okay, you're halfway there.
Yes. It's just 115 degrees in the summertime. Outside
and no ocean. Yeah.
No ocean. Right. Okay, so this is Vroom Vroom Veer. We have to stop screwing around and go back in time and talk about Risa. Am I saying that right now? Did I say it?
Yes.
Risa. Okay. Yep. Risa in say like high school. So where were you? What were you doing? Were you an athlete? Talk about Risa August in high school.
Yeah. So actually I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland and I was going to, So
wow. Midwest.
It's interesting. High school was an interesting scenario for me. I always felt I'm going to go deep here. My soul always felt like older or beyond the high school stuff, high school shenanigans.
Same. Yeah.
And I couldn't wait to get out of high school.
Interesting.
I played sports for a while and basketball, and I didn't make the softball team. It was between me and another girl, and I didn't make it. And I just kind of gave up sports after that and focused on getting out of high school. So like just,
Gotcha. Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
studying. And, I actually skipped school a lot. I rather work. I rather go to work. I got a job at age
Wow.
14.
Wow.
And I just wanted to go on and be successful in life and be an adult.
Right.
And so,
Wow.
so
At, like 14. That's amazing.
it was kind of, I had a bit of I wouldn't say a bit, but I had a dysfunctional household. And so I learned to be independent at a very young age.
Okay. All right. So not really all that big in athletics.
Not at that time. I mean, maybe the first year or two of high school, and then I kind of, focused on other things.
Interesting. I went through a bit of that. Like, I don't want to be here. I was a bit of an ambassador, more like floating in between groups a little bit.
Yes.
But I definitely get that feeling of like, what's going on here? Like these grown-ups aren't acting very grown up.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
You don't have to be that old to figure that out, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. And I would hang out with older people, and I remember too, like what you were saying, like I kind of floated between groups. I never felt really connected to any one group of people. So
okay.
I was just kind of there in the background,
the
perhaps.
Misfit, the misfit of choice.
Yes.
Okay, so you escape, and do you go to college or you go to work? What happens next?
Yeah, so I as soon as I graduated from high school, I was already 18, and as soon as I graduated, I moved out. I moved into an apartment.
Just like that.
I think I graduated in early June. And then like 2 weeks after that, I was living in an apartment in Kent, Ohio. And I was starting college at Kent State University that fall.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And many people have heard of Kent State University.
Yes, I remember Kent State. Why do I remember Kent State?
Yeah, so back in I think it was 1969 when there was the campus shootings, when
That's right.
students were protesting the Vietnam War.
Right. I was born in 69. Sorry.
Okay.
I just told everybody how old I was. But I remember Kent State. Yeah, the National Guard shooting. Yes. Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was college experience like for you? It was very Animal House-esque.
Oh gosh,
partying and.
I wish it was.
I didn't think it was either.
I had to put myself through school, so I got what loans I could, but then I worked full time Monday through Friday for a manufacturing company. I worked in the finance department, and so I was kind of already an adult at age 18.
Wow!
And
so you're working full time and going to school with a full class load.
Yes. Yep.
Yikes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I was going to school for business management.
Okay.
Not necessarily because I wanted to, but because what I really wanted to go to school for, I was told I wouldn't be successful or make any money doing.
Of course.
And
what was that?
That was archaeology.
You wanted to be Indiana Jones.
Oh my gosh, I loved Indiana Jones. You're exactly right. I was the girl playing in the creek, digging up the dirt, finding animal bones. Like I loved Indiana Jones, and that's what I want to do. But I was, kind of persuaded in other directions by a school counselor, by my mom, and so business management is where I ended up for 2 years, got extremely burned out, working full time and going to school full time. And so I ended up moving to Maine. I dropped out of school and moved to Maine. and which was the first time I left the state. It was the scariest thing I ever did. I followed a guy to Maine, and
Wow. Okay.
and the guy didn't work out. I didn't care about that, but it opened up my world. I learned all about backpacking and music and different cultures and ways of life. I mean, it was so new to me. I had no idea that being a fisherman was actually a career. I thought it was, I grew up, fishing for bluegill on a tiny little pond, near my neighborhood. Right? Yes, exactly.
I was in Michigan, so I get it.
Right. So I was just, and ever since then, I never saw that as a mistake. I was like, this is the best decision I ever made, even though it was a hard one. And
sure.
Like it opened up my world.
So you get a job in Maine. I take it.
So I got a job. I took some classes.
Ditch the dude, you get a job.
Took some classes. And then I moved back to Ohio briefly, and then I went to the West Coast and joined an AmeriCorps program for 2 years, which is similar to the Peace Corps, but it's in the US. And I did a ton of environmental work there. And then I moved to Australia for a year and did environmental work there. And,
Australia, that sounds fun.
Yeah. Yes. It was fun and challenging and all of it. So, yeah.
Wow. So you're already having a good time. As soon as you get out of Ohio, things get better. Understood. Okay. I had a similar experience with the Midwest. As soon as you get out of Michigan, like my whole mantra of Michigan winters was, I might visit here again, but I'm not living here again. I didn't think I was going to be able to pull it off, but I did.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's amazing. I heard the summers up there are lovely.
They're great. Yeah, the summers are great. I mean, it's like where I grew up. When I was a kid, they were always awesome. Nowadays, it's a little hotter than it was when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, I mean, if we got to 80 something, that was like, oh, it's like the best. Yeah. All you want to do is just be at the beach all day, right?
Right.
And soak it up. But now it's like, I think it hit 100 degrees in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. At some point. I know. So if you don't believe in climate change, it's real.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
But anyway, I digress. So what comes next? When did you get married?
Yeah, so I got married in my late 20s. So after all my traveling around and I settled back in Ohio again because I just wasn't sure what next. I finished my degree at Kent State University, and I finished in geography was my
hey, that's kind of close. It's science anyway.
Mm-hmm. It was, there's a whole physical geography aspect. There's a whole physical science aspect to geography. So, and I loved it. I loved it so much and learned a lot about our planet, and not even just the physical aspects of our planet, but also people, social geography, population trends, all the immigration, all those kinds of things. So, so that was fascinating to me, but, there wasn't a whole lot of work in that field. I tried with that for a long time, but anyways, I ended up meeting my future husband in 2003, and he lived about 3.5 hours away, and I moved to central Pennsylvania and got a job with an engineering firm, and and that was that.
So it seems like, though, the marriage was like a big veer for you, like that, not like the beginning, but maybe the totality of it, right?
Yes, it was a big veer. In early on, there was this really free-spirited, carefree, love to travel, flip-flop wearing Risa.
Right.
who was very curious about the world and a little bit transient. You know, I might work and live somewhere for a couple of years and then move on to the next place, you know, because it's all about learning for me, all about just soaking in as much as I could while I'm on the planet. And then all of a sudden I'm in central Pennsylvania with, I would say, a more conservative view of the world. And kind of in a job I didn't want to be in. And in a more, I'm trying to think of the nicest way to say this. Just a more, nice. I couldn't be me in this, you know, in this family, in this relationship. And even down to my, you know, husband at the time, mother looking at my flip-flops and like lifting her eyebrows, you know, that kind of thing. So I lost myself for many years in that. And
you're trying to fit yourself into a mold that you don't fit into, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. It's like that Midwestern voice of saying, hey, buckle down and get to work. Stop screwing around.
Seriously,
it gets all of us. It gets all of us Midwesterners because it's always there, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? You think life is for fun?
Exactly. Yeah. Fun was like irresponsible or something.
Right.
You know? So,
yeah. It's crazy.
Yep. And so we had opposite schedules. So
you never even saw him. Oh my goodness.
Well, he ran this distinguished inn that his parents owned. And so he'd be busy on the weekends and I'd be working my engineering job during the week. So if I wanted to spend time with him, I helped him run the inn on the weekends. Geez.
So you never have any time off?
No, we rarely did. And if we did, we had to get his parents to kind of run the show on the weekends, but there was a lot of pushback on that.
Of course.
So
yeah.
So we were there for about 5 years, and finally we moved to Colorado after I think I finally had it. So I was like, it's time for us to go live our lives.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But you got the hubby on board, so that's cool.
Yeah, it was always in his plan he had lived in Colorado for 13 years and it was always in his plan to go back, but
he just needed something to move him, huh?
Yeah, he had it pretty good there. So
I get it.
So I think he was a little like, oh gosh, now I have to go find another job and all this, so
totally.
So it took some coaxing, yeah.
Most of the best things I've ever done in my life, I didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people could say that's true, right?
Yeah.
But somehow through persuasion, luck, or grace, or whatever, you get to do it anyway. Yeah, I could keep talking forever about that, but we'll move on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you get to Colorado, and when do you start feeling sick? Is this when you start feeling sick and like?
Maybe roughly. I moved to Colorado in 2008. It was probably 2011 when I started noticing something was off in my body.
Okay.
I had just completed my first Ironman in 2010, and
wow.
2011, my friend asked me to do a 500-mile bike tour, and I was like, "Of course, yes, I love hard things."
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
And but I struggled. I was really struggling, and it didn't feel right. So I kept going to my doctor, a few different doctors for years. And it wasn't until 7 or 8 years later, 2017, where something was really wrong. I was training for another Ironman, and I was struggling to recover. Things were really challenging. I barely finished my race. And by 2018, I finally was diagnosed with a tumor at the base of my brain that came with a rare disease that essentially destroys the body over time. But I'll leave it there. So
what is that like? Like the moment when you're in the doctor's office and they say, we think you might have a brain tumor, right? What is that like? I mean, there's emotions and like thoughts and stuff like, I think I'm going to die. Something like that.
Yeah. Well, first it started in my primary care's office where, because I had such severe headaches and I kept being dismissed time and time. And no, you're an athlete. I'm not worried about you. Your blood work's fine.
Sure.
And I said, well, how do you explain these headaches? They won't go away. Oh, you're overtraining or not drinking enough water. And I said, well, I'd like to get an MRI to rule things out. And she said, no, I don't think you need one. I said, yeah, I'd feel better if I got one. No, they're really expensive. I don't think you need one. And I think there was some divine guidance that day because it was like I found my voice for the first time. And I said, order me the MRI.
Wow.
And 1 week later, I'm looking at my skull on the screen in an endocrinologist office. Now, I didn't even know what an endocrinologist was at that point.
Sure.
And there's this massive gray blob, like right in between my eyeballs. And she's like, oh, this has to come out. And I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
And then she's like, oh, and I'm 99.9% certain I know what you have. And I'm like, well, I have a tumor. Well, no, you also have this rare disease. And that's probably been causing all the symptoms you've been talking about. So, and it was a very surreal moment for me. I first was like, okay, well, I don't think you're talking to me. That's someone else's call on the screen.
Right.
So
you're kind of you're going through the stages of grief.
Yes, it was very
you're in
quick
denial
too.
first, right?
Yes.
No. This isn't me.
Exactly.
Did you disassociate a little bit when you heard it?
I think a little. Yes, absolutely. I did. And
you're not talking about me.
Exactly. I was just like, I don't know who. And then who you're talking to. Yeah, exactly. Right. And then I said, I reverted to my. It's kind of like my get things done mode. Like, okay, all right, well, just tell me what we have to do so I can get back to my life. So I can get on with my life.
Making a checklist of shit I gotta do. Yes, totally.
Yeah, let's
You're an achiever. Yes.
Get this done. Yeah.
Right.
And
the only thing between me and what I want is a list of shit to do.
Exactly. Right. I love my lists. Yes. I love my lists. And so I wasn't even sure that the thing needed to come out at that point. I was just like, okay, whatever needs to be done. I got to go home. I got to get on my bike,
Wow. So you were in like hardcore denial.
Yeah. I just didn't think it was that big a deal.
Okay.
So then she's looking at me, pointing to this thing, and she goes, oh, no, this has to come out. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? Come out how? How do you know?
You have a medical transporter that you can beam it out. That would be cool.
Exactly. That would be very cool.
Turns out we don't have those. Those are only on
No, not yet anyways. So she's like, brain surgery. And then I was like, whoa.
That's a whoa moment. Right.
Yeah.
Brain tumor, brain surgery. This has to come out.
Yep.
Okay.
And then she goes on to do some other tests and looking at me very closely. And I'm still not quite clear. And she's like, and I think you have acromegaly.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? And I couldn't even pronounce it. Like, it took me like 3 or 4 tries.
Sure.
And then I'm like, that's the dumbest name ever. Couldn't I have a cool sounding disease? Like,
I want to pick my disease, please.
Exactly. Like, it was just such a dumb name. I was like, seriously, that's what I get stuck with. So then all of a sudden it turned into validation. like, oh my gosh, I've been being dismissed,
Right.
ignored, for what, 8 years by that point, 7 years. And
right. You had given up.
finally,
You had given up asking for help at that point.
oh my God, I was trying to figure it out on my own.
Right,
And
right.
I kept thinking it was like something wrong with my thyroid. And it turns out it's the pituitary, which controls the thyroid.
Uh-huh.
And so, I finally was like, oh my God, like I knew, like, one of the symptoms was like, it looks like extreme weight gain, but it's actually tissue growth. Because essentially what it does is it affects the pituitary, and the pituitary starts dumping excessive amounts of growth hormone into the body.
Wow.
And which will eventually kill you, because everything grows. Your organs grow, your bones, my whole bone structure's grown. And
you're
so
like on teenager mode.
it's seriously, times 10. And
wow.
And so, finally, so one of them looked like I got very big, and I think a lot of people just thought I was eating too many potato chips and in denial. Like I had a friend recommend.
And you're doing like 500-mile bike rides.
I was
so
very
makes
stringent.
Zero sense.
It to me, it didn't make. I was like, I started to think.
I know how to do math. I know thermogenesis.
Seriously, like yes. I started to think that it was my problem. Like I was maybe overeating. I had a friend recommend Overeaters Anonymous to me.
Oh my goodness.
This
is not a triathlete person. No.
Right.
No.
Right. So,
okay,
and so I finally came like it. I just felt validated. I was just like, it was almost like, thank God. Like,
at least I know what's going on now, and I'm not crazy, and I'm not,
exactly.
It's unfortunate that it had to be so shitty.
Seriously.
But at least you were right.
At least I was right. I effing knew it.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to give you the light version of that, because I told you before, when I went to massage school, I started getting these rashes all over. Right. And so I started going to doctors, and, doctor number one says, oh, it's fungus, and then so I'll give you an antifungal. And then, so like every doctor said something new, and it was a new cream, and it never helped. But they all said the one thing you can't do is scratch. And I'm like, you can't tell me that. I'm going to scratch because it itches. You have to help me make it not itch.
Right.
So then I was like you, I kind of quit, right? And 12 years later, like right before lockdown, right? I wrote a little note because my parents came out to see me the February before the March. So February 2020, my mom looked at my leg, my ankle, and was like, you got to see somebody. And I'm like, I will, maybe they figured something out. Right. Cause it was gross and embarrassing, and I got tired of being dismissed like that, like you're saying. Mm-hmm. So finally I go to this dermatologist. He literally looked at it and went, oh, I know what that is. And he gave me this piece of paper and he said, do this. It's just like this protocol. It's basically eczema that doesn't look like eczema. And they gave it a new name, atopic dermatitis. But basically, the treatment was the same as eczema, more or less. So he gave me this sheet of paper, like of things not to do and things to do, like use lotion, don't use loofah. You don't need to wash everywhere in your body. Use really, really diluted soap. This list, right? And it's gone. It's totally gone. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It flares up like. I think it's antihistamine flare up, right?
Oh,
so it's a histamine based response, but it's global and itchy, right?
Right. Oh my goodness.
I just start taking antihistamine whenever that happens, and it's over.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I have this cream just in case, right? So anybody out there itchy and the doctor blows you off, try atopic dermatitis. Anyway.
Okay. Oh my God. And you have a much cooler disease name than I do. So
So what's it like? Oh, well, we have to get into the book. So
Okay.
you're getting treatment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so wait a minute, you have to have brain surgery. How'd that go?
Oh gosh. Well, I was sleeping most of the time, but I
Right.
think it went pretty well.
One would hope. But okay, so the
yes.
surgery itself was okay.
I mean, again, it was a surreal moment walking in there, and
Yeah.
you know, the reality of, oh, well, what if I don't make it out of here?
Right.
But they actually, because where the tumor was, they actually went in through my nose
Okay.
and broke through a bunch of cartilage and stuff like that, and
Okay.
pulled out what they could of the tumor. The rest of the tumor is wrapped around my carotid artery, so it's inoperable, and therefore
You just
it's
have to
still
live with it. Right.
I have to live with it, and it's still dispensing excessive amounts of growth hormone.
Okay.
So I went on to have radiation treatment in hopes of shrinking the tumor so that I don't have to be on toxic medications for the rest of my life, controlling that growth hormone output. But unfortunately, neither the radiation treatment nor the medications are working for me at this point.
Oh no. Yikes.
Yeah, total bummer.
Yeah. So you're waiting for science to catch up, basically.
Yeah, at this
Yikes.
point.
Wow.
Mhm.
That sucks.
Yeah. Yes. Totally sucks.
Sorry.
You know, I mean, I have a lot of overachieving to do. So
Right. And you got a lot of fun to have, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you get this crazy idea of I'm going to do this bike ride while I'm going through this crazy brain tumor situation?
Yes. Well, I was sitting on my couch. I think it was roughly 6 months after surgery. And I just felt, I was annihilated. I was living in these gray, tattered sweatpants and not existing, really.
Right.
I had little energy. I didn't feel well, all the things. And
You're
I remember
depressed. That's
thinking,
depression. Yeah. Yeah.
perhaps, yeah.
Or you can't basically get out of bed. You just, maybe I'll turn on
Yeah.
the TV, maybe I'll brush my teeth, but what's the point? I've been there. That's
Yeah.
depression. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and physically, I couldn't, my body was different now. It wasn't functioning, even cognitively. There was some misfires going on. And for someone who's extremely sharp and detailed and sought after for those skills, there was some misfirings, things like my brain not connecting to my body, and so my body wouldn't do what my brain was telling it to do. And there was just a lot of changes, and I just was like, oh my God, who am I now? Like,
Totally.
if I'm not all of that, who I was, the overachieving perfectionist, like, well, who am I now?
Right.
And I just remember sitting on the couch again for another day in a row and just making a conscious decision at that point of like, this isn't how I want to live. You know, I feel like if I lay here another day, I'll die.
Totally. I
And
get that.
so
Yep.
I'm like, I want to live. And I want to be better than I was before. I want to be a better person. I want to do all the things on my bucket list. I want to just live big and fully and happy.
Yeah.
And so I made a conscious decision that day. And so I did what anyone would do. I signed up for an 1,800-mile bike ride down the coast.
Yeah, of course. That's what everybody does. Yes. Totally. That's the first thing that people.
Right? I mean, right? Yeah.
And like number 10 would be watch another show on Netflix, but number 1. Wow. I like that.
Yeah.
So was there like a little bit of like, I'm going to swear if that's okay with you.
Oh, yeah. I love swearing. You must not have read my book yet. There's a lot of swearing in it.
You got to the fuck it moment, right? It's like, it's almost like if I'm going to die, I want to die doing a thing I'm loving doing. Right. And an 1,800 mile bike ride, that might kill me. That's okay. At least I'm not on this fucking couch.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that fucking couch. I hate that couch.
That's great. That's awesome. So let's talk about the ride itself. Was that like brutal or grueling or inspiring or all of the above?
Well, yeah, all of the above. I remember a doctor, I was at a conference and I was in a breakout session with probably 40 people in the room, and I was passing out these flyers to just spread awareness of like this bike ride I was doing and for this weird sounding named disease. And someone asked like, oh, do you think she should be doing this ride? And the doctor said, no. Well, I think it's cool. If I were her friend, I'd say it's cool. But if I were her practicing physician, I'd say no. And I was like, challenge accepted, buddy. I'm going to do it.
I'm not going to die.
Exactly. I won't die. I'll show you. So
I might die 2 weeks later, but right.
And so I went into the ride thinking, so me and about 10 other people shared a van that transported our gear from campground to campground. And
wow.
But it was up to us, to figure out how to get there. Like, we didn't have support otherwise. We had to make all our road repairs on our bikes and anything else along the journey.
Like the super sponsored teams have like teams of people, right?
Right.
Like vans, multiple vans, and like repair kits and bananas and protein shakes.
Yeah. No, I didn't have that, but that sounds awesome. And so I thought it would be easier to just not worry about my gear. I wanted my bike. She's this beautiful carbon frame road bike. And I didn't, and she's not cut out for touring. So there's no, panniers or racks going on her. And so I was like, good, I can just not deal with my gear, and all I have to do is get up and ride every day. And, and I still had like medications to think about. I have really complex medications that require refrigeration and certain kind of mixing to inject them and all that stuff. So I just was like, I don't have to worry about that. And which wasn't the case at all, but you
had to figure that shit out, of course.
I had to figure it out. Yep. Yeah. And but I remember going into the ride, like being like, I'm going to do this on my own. I don't want anyone, helping me. And if these people think they're going to be friends with me, I'm not going to be friends. Like I just had this whole mentality of like, I'm doing this for me. And that's not really how it turned out. And
I don't think you'd make it if you tried to do it by yourself.
I speak to, well, thanks a lot. Now I'm like, okay, now I got to go do it by myself.
Doesn't seem like a solo kind of thing. I mean, it's a big deal.
It's interesting. I'm a little side note here. I just actually went to Spain. I just got back for a month and I rode my bike across northern Spain by myself.
So you did do it.
And this time I wanted to be with people and I didn't have anybody. And it really, really sucked. It was no fun.
Right. See? Even if the people around you are pissing you off, at least you're not alone.
It's totally.
Yeah, isolation is a killer. Okay, side note over. Cool.
Okay.
So you survive the race, but you have help.
I survived. Yeah, I really I had a lot of time to think. This was the time I was also working through my impending divorce and what that was going to look like and feel like. I was realizing at this point, like, okay, I'm going to have this tumor and disease for the rest of my life. And it's going to inhibit me from a a world, a life I once knew and had. And, there was all kinds of things going on this journey. And so there was a lot of amazing moments and a lot of challenging moments. And I got through it.
Wow. Wow. Now I kind of want to read this book.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good book.
I bet.
It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Lots of fucks in it.
Yes, lots of F-bombs. Yeah.
I like it.
And then lots of dialogue from Bubba, my tumor. And
so what does Bubba sound like when he talks in your head?
oh my gosh. So I speak to this in my book as well, but he sounds like the yellow peanut M&M from the commercials.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah. Imagine that. You know.
Can't do that.
Exactly. Bastard. Yeah.
Bubba. We got to kick Bubba out.
Right. But his character develops in the story as well. And and you may be surprised.
I bet I would be. So we are getting close to the end. So as we wrap up, let's talk about everything going on at risaaugust.com and the name of the book, The Road Unpaved, Border to Border with a Brain Tumor and a Bike. How awesome is that?
Yeah, thank you.
It writes itself. So talk a little bit about how people can connect with you and your book.
Yes, you can definitely go to my website, and it's risaaugust.com, like you just said, and Risa is spelled with one S.
Right.
And you can definitely find me there and find out all the things I'm doing now. And or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Risa Unleashed, or on LinkedIn at Risa August. And I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm speaking and all kinds of things. So you can certainly find me in any of those places.
Yeah. And about 30 other podcasts. So go listen to them all.
Go listen to all of them.
Mine's the best, but listen
totally
to
the best. Yes.
Risa, this has been a blast. Sorry for screwing up your name like I promised I would do.
It's okay.
Sorry. Could you please screw up my name real quick?
I was trying to figure it out. Like, it's not even spelled with a G. Like, you
can't say G off or anything.
I mean, Jeffrey, like, I don't know. Like,
I know. Jeffrey. Yeah. That's good. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's pretty good. I've heard that one before.
Oh,
I've gotten Smythe, just because they're trying to be ironically, stupidly funny.
Okay.
Is it Smythe or Smith?
It could be like Smithy, like Smith, like the H is silent, like Smith. You know how people will say what and they'll say like what?
What?
Like they almost pronounce the H, like, so it could be like Smith.
There you go. Thank you for being creative with trying to screw up my name.
Gosh.
I appreciate it. That was awesome. Thank you for the dose of Risa August. This has been a blast. You have a good one.
Oh, you too. Thanks. Right. I had so much fun.
All right. Don't hang up. I'm just going to stop the show.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.